We're here. Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, May 15th, 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This podcast covers the national champions. It's called the Bucknuts Morning 5. Sorry we are late. Serious technical difficulties plaguing the show. There is parts of it I'm still going to have to be winging it on, but I'm going to bring on the Dean and the Grand Poobah here in just a sec. But first, I got to tell you about Huel. Great way to get your day started or get an entire meal in one bottle. It's a complete meal, has all the nutrients you need to thrive, 27 vitamins and minerals. It is, excuse me for one sec here. We've got a 15% off plus free gift for new customers if you use my exclusive code BUCKNUTS at Huel.com. Please see our description for the terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition bottled. I hope that worked. All right. Look who it is. The Dean, the Grand Poobah. I am sorry I kept you waiting. Mark had something to do. He's now closer to his destination. We're going to let Mark go first here today because he has plenty to get out, and then we're going to get the Dean rolling and give you all the recruitment updates that are fit for a fit. All right, Mark, you were at Akron Hoben yesterday. I got questions here up and down on Tuesday show about Hoben stars, nothing about one that's defected out of state, more about Sam Greer and the Feister brothers. I don't know how that's pronounced. You're going to tell me right now. Mark, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Feister brothers. I think either one works, but when Hoban holds a showcase, the whole world shows up. I mean, there was no shortage of college coaches, probably 70 college programs there, it felt like. Just swarms of coaches following each position group. And what's funny is usually college will send one coach to a day. There were multiple members of staffs there because you had to send a DB with the DB group. You had to send an offensive line guy with the O-line group and so on and so forth. Sam Greer was the show. The first thing I noticed about him is the weight room has now caught up to him. He used to look like, the young puppy dog, and he had the big paws, and, the body was big, but it wasn't truly defined. He looks like a man now. His shoulders are defined. His chest is defined. His belly is flat, unlike Bill. So figured I'd throw a quick jab in this morning, but really impressed on how he has grown up into being a man. And, of course, going through drills, he looked so athletic. He is the bar, for what a lineman should look like at left tackle with the wingspan. He did a great job in one-on-ones. Didn't have to do much. When you're as good as him, you get a couple reps and you kind of let the youngins work off of it. The Feister brothers, what I noticed about them is obviously Braden played running back, and there's Brayton and Braden. And now they are both playing middle linebacker, which, for a while we're like, is the Feister going to be a running back in college? I think he may have, said, okay, I'm going to try this linebacker thing and brace it, because I got a lot of footage on them doing like 7-on-7s where they were both plugged in there. Tell you what a tandem of linebackers to have those brothers lined up there. They are so defined in the arms and so well built that they look like they came out of a catalog that you order linebackers from. So I think they had very impressive days. I think they've already blown up to the point where their offer list is very long and deep. It's just a matter if the Buckeyes are going to go and take these guys. I think that day has to be coming. Now that they're maybe full-time linebackers or embracing the linebacker role a little bit more, I think over there that they're absolute no-brainers.
Any other names we need to know from Hoben for the immediate future? I'm sure they've got, like the Feisters, guys coming for days. But Albert Hill's the one who got away. Is there any other guys we need to know about?
Albert Hill wasn't doing much working out. He had the USC gloves on, the big red, and they stood out like a sore thumb against the blue background everywhere else. Peyton Cook, nice looking receiver, probably not going to be in the plans for Ohio State. John Johnson is a kid who worked out as a defensive back last year. He's a receiver. He's 6'4". He made some impressive plays. Hoban has a transfer quarterback that came from, I believe, Minnesota or Wisconsin. He already has a handful of offers. He looked to be about 6'3", was slinging the ball. Forgive me for not putting his name and committing it to memory yet, but that was a new name for me. Akron East worked out at the same time on the field below. College coaches trickled down there because they had Wharton, a nice-looking defensive back, probably not Ohio State, but they had 6 Division I kids down there. So on those two fields, there were no less than 20 Division I players between the two fields. Certainly a fast hour and a half when you're trying to get video footage of a bunch of them, which I am promising now that today is my last day on the road. Big video dump coming for the Bucknutters next week. We'll have some fun looking at everything, and you won't have to deal with my description. You'll be able to see it for yourself. So
let's wrap this with a little more chatter on the guy we've been talking about for good close to 4 years here, and that's Sam Greer. So as you look at him now, you are very confident he fits the left tackle, I don't know, 5-star mold, but you had him battling out with Adam Guthrie and stuff like that. So as of right now, as we head into senior year, if you were ranking left or tackles in the state, where would Greer come out?
Yeah, it's funny when Guthrie's film came out and Greer's film came out, I simply said to the Bucknutters that I think Guthrie had the better junior film. That those two were very similar bodies. If you were going to rank two kids that had the left tackle prototypical size, and then saying that did not make Bucknutters or any Ohio State fans happy. They want their guy to always have that number one spot. They don't want honesty or unbiased opinion. And honestly, it's little by a little bit. Maybe there were a few more pancakes, a few more good hand placements or whatever when you're, when you're drinking fine wines like that. I mean, really, what is the difference? But I tell you what, Sam Greer, as I was walking out of there, I started to feel that, Mark, put your tail between your legs because this kid's going to make you look bad. Not that, there was any major, it's not like I dropped him the number 10 in my rankings or something, but he's going to have that top spot. I mean, the way his body looked, the way his shirt fit against him looked like he was a linebacker, not an offensive lineman. He really, I have to say hats off to him in the weight room because the definition and the leaning out, it almost looked like basketball season pulled some fat off of his body, and now when he got in the weight room, it all came back with a little definition. It really is a good look for him.
Mark, we appreciate your efforts. Let everybody know where you're finishing up and what you've got planned to make it up to your family for the weekend.
Yeah, today is Cleveland, so it's North Olmsted next, Berea Mid Park, then Olmsted Falls, Lorraine, Elyria, and then I will go home and cut my grass before my neighbors start cutting it for me. I'm going to pull some weeds. I have a couple cars that look like they've been through a war because they haven't been cleaned. It's going to be a spring cleaning weekend for the Porter household. I got to do a lot of screwing around myself and get my own affairs in order, my office straightened out. I have emails for days.
Well, we appreciate your efforts. I know the Bucknutters appreciate your efforts, and we look forward to that video next week. Please drive carefully.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. All right, Bill. That's not something we do usually. We usually let you hold the floor, but I figured with the visit to Hoban and such and what we got to dump out today.
Well worth it from Mark.
For sure. Let's have you just echo the sentiment there on Greer. You've had a chance to see a lot of guys evolve over time. Greer, to me, is almost the prototypical tackle in that you could see the raw materials as a ninth grader when he played. He's been injured, but he played in the state championship basketball game. It was excellent, has great feet. And as Mark said, it seems like he's made the progression. So, Bill, I'd have to say Ohio State had the right eye when it came to tackle. Would you agree?
Yeah, I became convinced, 100% sold on Sam Greer late last season. The reason maybe a lot of people weren't sold on him before that was that he was hurt. He had that injury. And, when I went up there his sophomore season, he was on the verge of coming back and playing for Hoban football-wise, but wasn't quite there yet. It was late in the season then as well, and he had another, if I remember correctly, a week or two to go before he got into action on the football field for Hoban. So I didn't actually see him, but his junior season, he was healthy. And I saw him late in his junior season, and I came away saying, this guy's the real deal. I was very impressed. Goal line, he was blocking down on people and just putting them into the ground, and that totally sold me on Sam Greer. And the fact that being a former hoops coach that I am, the guy, you'd see him on the court, and he did things that you knew were going to translate to the football field.
Yeah. Great feat.
So I've been sold on him since late in his junior season when I saw him in person. And then I saw him again at the Under Armour Combine a few weeks ago. And as Mark said, he looks better than ever. Flat belly. He just looks really good. And he did a lot of things that day that I came away very impressed. And by the way, in the 247 Sports updated rankings, he got a huge bump in the rankings. Very much deserved. He deserves to be up there where he is now, and I think he's going to continue to go higher, to be honest. So I don't know if he's going to be a left tackle or a right tackle at Ohio State, and he doesn't know that yet either. He has told me that that's not been determined. Just tackle on one side of the line or the other. But he's going to be a good one for Ohio State.
He is the classic left tackle mold, but I could see if you had a left-hander in there, you might want to put him on the right side. And I think that his athleticism speaks to his versatility, Bill. Not every prospect you feel so comfortable moving them around. That's a credit to his athleticism. And I'll say this, he's going to pass the look test for everybody when you see him. He is when you walk into a college locker room, I was going to say NFL locker room, you know who the left tackles are or the big-time tackles are. They just look different. It's the reason they made a movie called Blindside, and we are lucky to have Sam Greer. We are lucky Sam Greer's family chose to raise their family in Ohio. We're going to get back and talk about another guy who didn't come here, who's not from Ohio. But first, I've got to tell you about, and this is going to be a good one, Cornbread Hemp. You guys know that Cornbread Hemp, America's first ever USDA organic THC gummy. It's a healthy happy hour, a natural and healthier way to experience a carefree moment. But guess what they have now? Sodas. Raspberry lime, salted, excuse me, hold on one sec, salted watermelon, etc. And I will say this. I may or may not have given this to two adults that I know to test these out to see if they work. And they work. I got a call about an hour afterwards. And when you see on the cans, it says like you drink one, you're expected to feel this, two this, three this. These fine adults were on one. And let me tell you, it works. There was giggling. There was limited euphoria. So if you're looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, these new sodas are great. The gummies are incredible. And again, it's the first THC that's 100% legal. You get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts and use promo code Bucknuts at checkout. cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknut and use Bucknuts and use code Bucknuts for 30% off your first order. All right, William, let's first talk about the one that got away, and I use that in air quotes because I don't think Ohio State was in it down the stretch, but it's well known, and that is Jackson Cantwell, the number one offensive lineman in the country, verbally committed to Miami. He looks a lot like Sam Greer, maybe a couple inches taller. But your thoughts on Jackson Cantwell opting to go elsewhere? I'm not sure we were ever really in it down the stretch. Normally, we wouldn't even talk about a guy like this, but he's such a high-profile guy that we thought we'd share a few words. Bill?
Yeah, we talked about this on Tuesday. Tuesday morning, I think if you looked at picks, predictions across networks, not just ours, they were pretty much all towards Georgia, and that's kind of what I felt too was probably going to happen. But there were some really interesting twists down the stretch, and we know that Miami can do that. They have the wherewithal to be able to get a kid at the end if they really want him, and they got Jackson Cantwell. It was going to be, as you referred to, I know that we talked here, and you, myself, Mark, none of us thought he was going to end up at Ohio State. What I felt was he was going to end up at Georgia or Miami, and that's what happened. He ended up going with Miami. Ohio State is just not going to break their scale, so to speak, just to get one guy. They've done such a good job of keeping a scale, keeping players at Ohio State that are already here. They didn't have anybody. They didn't lose a scholarship player during the spring transfer portal period. That's tremendous. So, I will say again and again, Ohio State's got this figured out better than anybody at this point, the portal and the NIL.
Unfortunately, Bill, I just looked down and saw that Felix Ojo, the other offensive lineman I am geeked about, and I know you've expressed some optimism about, did very well in the updated rankings, I might add. I see as 24/7 Sports staff projection, which is a new thing they're doing with the crystal ball when they get like a general consensus, to Texas. Not a good deal for Ohio State. How do you feel about that crystal ball rolling towards Austin, Texas?
Well, not a shocker either. I've long said it's going to be Texas or Ohio State. He is from Mansfield or Lake Ridge High School, which, of course, is in the state of Texas, not Mansfield, Ohio. There is no Mansfield Lake Ridge in Ohio. There is a Mansfield, Ohio, but not a Lake Ridge High School. And I've said it's not going to be easy getting him away from Texas. Looking at that crystal ball pick by the 247 Sports staff, it's not with a lot of confidence right now. It's a 4 pick. So, I would tend to agree with that. If I had to make a pick, I would do it with low confidence right now to Texas. But he is making an official visit to Ohio State unless something changes, and I don't think it will. He is scheduled to be at Ohio State in about a week and a half, May 30th, for his official visit. So we'll see how that goes. His other visits are Texas, Oklahoma, Michigan, and Ole Miss, which has already been made. And again, I still think that if anybody can wrangle him away, no pun intended with the Texas there, if anybody can wrangle him away from Texas, it's Ohio State.
All right. Speaking of wrangling away, the first part of wrangling away when you have a committed prospect is they need to decommit from whoever they're committed to. Enter 5-star linebacker Xavier Griffin from, I believe it's Logan'sville, Georgia, was committed to that vaunted.
Gainesville.
Did I say?
You said Logan'sville.
Which is it?
Gainesville, Georgia.
My fault. Sorry, Georgians. He was committed to USC, the vaunted class we heard was going to finish number 1. Maybe not. He decommitted, and he's got 5 schools that he's looking at, 5 heavyweights. Ohio State has been mentioned prevalent some places, other places not so much. So for the tiebreaker, let's go to the dean. How interested is Ohio State in Xavier Griffin? I have to assume very. Here's the key. How interested is Xavier Griffin in Ohio State? He is something. Go ahead.
Well, it wasn't a surprise. We at 247 Sports knew this was coming. In fact, I think if you looked at our site, well, I know if you looked at our site, if you looked at the Alabama site, I know, and the Florida State sites, all those sites, the minute that it was announced publicly, all those sites had a story ready, quotes, everything from Xavier Griffin on why their school was now in contention again. The interesting thing with why Ohio State is. There were been rumors going around for a long time that he was going to decommit from USC, so that wasn't a shock. Nobody knew for sure exactly which schools were going to be on his list until fairly recently. The interesting thing with Ohio State is why the Buckeyes are now on his list. I had some quotes in my story from when he got the offer from Ohio State, scholarship offer way back 2024, how excited he was. He had visited Ohio State, what he liked and everything. He visited Ohio State right after the offer for the Buckeyes 2024 spring game. I had some quotes, what he felt about that. They were all very positive. But he ended up committing to USC in July of 2024. He felt that looking at things with the Jim Knowles defense, that Ohio State really maybe was not going to be a good fit for him with the Jim Knowles defense. Well, there's a new sheriff in town, and that being Matt Patricia. Now he wants to come up and see to Columbus exactly how he would fit in a Matt Patricia defense. So that was the biggest reason Ohio State is back now very much in contention, because he thinks, maybe under Matt Patricia, he can fit in well in Ohio State's defense. He is a linebacker edge guy. He's 6'3", 210 pounds approximately. And I'm going to be interested to see when he makes that official visit to Ohio State, which again is in a week and a half, May 30th, what Matt Patricia tells him exactly would be his role at Ohio State, how he would fit in. And I'm going to not go out on a limb here and say that Matt Patricia will impress him with how he can fit into Ohio State defense.
Bill, I want you to put this in perspective for me. Now, I realize my eyes often get too big for my stomach, but is it possible to get Tyler Atkinson and Xavier Griffin in one class to Ohio State? I'm telling you, if they do that, Kirby Smart will not be happy. The fans of Georgia will not be happy. And listen, Georgia has an unbelievable talent pool, man. It is spectacular. I'm not kidding. Player for player, I would say I think it's the best in the country right now, and has been for a few years. Is that even possible, Bill? Should I not even dream of such a thing?
Well, I think it's possible. I mean, I wouldn't go out on a limb and say it's going to happen or even predict it's going to happen. But it's possible. They're both making official visits. Atkinson hasn't announced his official visit schedule yet, but he has indicated
we'll be on there.
The Ohio State is going to be one of them.
No doubt.
But when you're talking about Ohio State and the way they handle these official visits, I pretty much feel like anytime they actually get a kid on campus for an official visit, they have a legitimate shot because they do such a good job. These kids wouldn't be coming up here for official visits from Georgia if there wasn't a real interest there. Alabama right now has the only crystal ball pick for Xavier Griffin, but I just never saw Ohio State short when they get kids on official visits.
Anything is possible, as Hollywood Hager said.
And by the way, Xavier Griffin right now is the country's number one linebacker. According to 247 Sports, he's number 8 overall, the number one linebacker in the country, the number one prospect in Georgia. And who's right behind him on those metrics? Of course, Tyler Atkinson.
The concept of getting the top 2 linebackers in the same class and the top 2 defensive backs in the same class would be just unreal. I don't even know where to put that one. That's just so spectacular. I'm going to read our last ad here, and we're going to get into more good stuff. Mando, you guys know it. It's the summer, or it's coming up at least. It's beautiful in the Gem City today, by the way. If you need to get some sun, today's your day. Mando, spring is in the air. The weather's warming up. I got to go to graduation this weekend, probably get dressed up. It might be a little bit warmer. You know what I'm going to do? Mando, nooks, crannies everywhere. You want to feel comfortable, knowing you're going to be smelling good for a long-term event. This is it. It's a whole body deodorant. pits, blanks, bolds, folds, buttons, cracks, and feet. Created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO is being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours for you stankers. Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code Bucknuts at shopmando.com. shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Okay, Bill, there's lots of pictures going up because our coaches are on the road visiting, and it is not an official visit. Or it's not an official visit. It's not a real visit until you get an internet or social media picture with the coaches. Now, I saw the coaches, Carlos Lachlan, and an extremely buff Brian Hartline, I might add, not missing a workout, getting good use of the Ohio State facilities, standing with a certain running back who I think would be a good player at Ohio State, Savion Hyder. Everybody looked cheery in the picture. That made me happy. Then there's starting to be some trickle out, some chatter. I think there's a general sense, and please correct this. I'm going with kind of the general sense, and then we go to the dean for the exact sense. I think there's a general sense that Hyder was going to choose ultimately between Ohio State and Michigan. Do you feel like Ohio State is in the lead? Do you feel like Ohio State is second? Or is there another school I'm not giving enough credit to, Bill? Savion Hyder is the nation's top back out of Virginia. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it really depends on who you talk to. I mean, I've talked to some people that I have respect for that think Georgia may be a bigger factor than is being given credit for. He's got 4 schools: Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Tennessee. Can't rule out Tennessee either. They have the wherewithal. We saw that with a certain young man named Sanders. I would not feel comfortable saying anybody right now has the lead for Savion Hyder. And by the way, Dan, you talked about seeing the Ohio State coaches seeing Savion Hyder. Well, there was a pretty rocked up Ohio State coach seeing another running back yesterday, that being Carlos Lachlan. He went to see Derek Cooper, the outstanding great back from Florida. And, to me, if you can get either one of those guys, it's pretty much a home run, either Hyder or Cooper. And then, I don't know that you're going to get both of them. I think that'd be kind of crazy to think. But if you can get one of them, and then you can get either Carson Baker or Favor Aki to go with them, that's a great tandem.
Yeah. Hyder and Cooper are, let's just say, NIL challenges. Would you agree in terms of their interest? I think they're going to be able to write their own ticket, as it were, but we shall see. I'm going to see if there's any other good questions on here. All right. Bill, there's been some offensive linemen offered. I want to talk about the one they just offered, the high 4-star guy. Let me get his name here. Jake Hildebrand. Are we already moving on to 2027? It does seem like Arizona, the state of Arizona, is growing as a recruiting outlet. My assumption is people are moving to the nicer weather in the Phoenix and Scottsdale and Chandler areas, but it's another discussion for another show. Tell us what you know about Jake Hildebrand.
Also, besides the weather, when you go into a state, you always take a look at who is the big name school and where their program is. You go into Arizona right now, and Arizona State have not been great, over the past 5 years or so, approximately. So you go into that state, and it's not like going into the state of Georgia, for instance, and competing against Georgia. So that helps. And Ohio State has recruited the state of Arizona pretty hard
Very well
the last few years. Really more than that. Tyler Bowen was in Arizona yesterday, and he stopped at Basha High School, a very good prep program there, Basha, and he offered Jake Hildebrand. He's a 2027 offensive tackle. And Mark talked about he said approximately 70 college coaches at Hoban yesterday. Well, Basha had their spring jamboree yesterday, and there were approximately 75 college coaches at that spring jamboree. Again, Tyler Bowen being one of them. And Jake Hildebrand, I put a story about him on our site first thing this morning, and he said he was very emotional getting that offer from Ohio State. And he's already looking, he's going to visit Ohio State either sometime this summer or for a game. He wants to get up to Ohio State as soon as possible. He is a 6'6", 285-pound offensive tackle. Again, 2027 offensive tackle. That is one of the best in the country, and has the scholarship offer list to prove it. Includes the Arizona schools as well as Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Oklahoma, USC, Washington, Notre Dame, Penn State, Tennessee. I could go on and on. Miami, Texas A&M. I can go on and on. He's a good one, and he's got 34 offers right now, by the way, and he is absolutely interested in Ohio State.
Bill, Brian Hanthorne has asked a question, and it's leading me to what I think is going to be our last deal here, and that is defensive line. I'm getting the sense that people are getting worried about defensive line recruiting for this class. I could be wrong. I'm not wrong. And that brings us to like Luke Waffle from the mean streets of Princeton and the Hun School. Who are the defensive linemen you think they want most? And if you want to jimmy that with who's most likely, let's talk defensive line. I mean, we've literally been the offensive line show, it feels like, for about 2 months. And credit to Tyler Bowen for that. How's Big Lair doing?
Well, I've answered that question, I think, multiple times on our front row message board this week.
Hence me asking it now, because I just looked at it. I looked at for content. I thought people want to know about the D line. Let's ask the dean.
Yeah, that's people are really kind of, I don't know if I'd say down, but worried maybe is the better word about defensive line recruiting, and they don't have a defensive line commitment right now. But when you look at the guys they're in on, there are some really good players. Luke Waffle narrowed his list down to 4 schools, and obviously we knew Ohio State was going to be on there. And I continue to say he's going to end up, I think, unless something changes, at either Ohio State or Penn State. Hard to rule out Texas, but I think he'll end up at one of those 2 schools. Ohio State, if they can pull that off, that would be absolutely huge. Jameer Perez, who I think is really becoming a good defensive tackle from Cleveland Glenville. I would not bet against the Buckeyes there for sure.
Time out. Let's comment on Perez real quickly. I don't remember a defensive lineman interior-wise like Perez from Ohio that we've gotten. I could be wrong about that. But in recent vintage, you're talking about a guy who, if he lived in Opelousas, Louisiana, we'd be talking about him going to LSU, and we couldn't get him. Wouldn't you agree? He's kind of the bigger, he's almost Tyleek size.
Yeah, he's currently checking in. And again, he told me this again recently, like within the last week or so, 360 pounds. And if there's a guy that ever did not look like he weighs 360 pounds, it's Jameer Perez. And when I say that, I don't mean he looks like he weighs more. I mean, he looks like he weighs more like 310 pounds than 360, but he's 360. So that's a good thing.
Hold on a second.
Again,
okay, Mike Hall, as comparison to, these are different players. Mike Hall is more your 3 technique, fast act. Mike Hall's best thing was he has the quickest first step for a defensive lineman, a bigger dude than I've seen in Ohio for sure. Perez is the 1 technique. That means you double team him or he is steamrolling he might be Tongan. He's so big. You know what I'm saying? He's that kind of guy. So you got your 1 technique and your three technique, and they are different. Go ahead, Bill.
And like I said, Jameer Perez, you got Pierre Dean from North Carolina, who is down to 3 schools, and I think it'll be either Ohio State or Georgia for him. I might even give Ohio State a very slight edge for him right now. In fact, a while back I crystal balled him to Ohio State, but Georgia's really putting the press on him lately, even more so than before. So I think Ohio State or Georgia for him. Aiden Harris is another possibility. Demarion Simeon is another possibility. I mentioned Luke Waffle. And if you go to our top targets list on Bucknuts, there are 12, I believe it's 12 defensive linemen on Ohio State's top target list. And almost all of them are going to make an official visit to Ohio State come May 30th through June 24th. So there are some, I mentioned 4 or 5 guys that Ohio State is very much in the running for, but I could also put a couple of those other guys in that top targets list as legitimate possibilities. So it's going to be a matter of closing on some of these guys, really.
You don't get it better than the dean. We appreciate Bill giving us all this information. Bill, what do you got planned for the next 48 hours, 72 hours or so? A lot of Guardians games. Lot of
today. They have the day off.
A lot of free throw shooting. Going to go out and work on your free throw shooting. Bill, 3 missed free throws. You get that 3. Donovan Mitchell, 3 free throws.
Almost 90% shooter at the line.
If there is, and as someone who has literally, not at an NBA game, but seen their son take free throws that are, I get that it's stressful, but you can't miss 3 free throws in a row if you're a franchise player in the NBA. That is symbolic of the downfall of the Cavs. But it is Guardian season, as Bill reminds me of routinely. What do you got planned for the next few days, Bill?
Well, pretty much business as usual. High State coaches are on the road, so I'm working. I will say that the next thing I'll have I rearranged the top targets list some, took some guys off, added a guy or 2 because that happens during the spring evaluation period. So the 2026 top targets for Ohio State, I've rearranged that list some. And later today, I'll have the offensive side of the ball kind of featuring who is on there for the Buckeyes. And then in the next day or 2 after that, I'll have the defensive side of the ball, what the Ohio State top targets list looks like right now. So that'll be the 2 big things coming up. And then there'll be more offers. There'll be some scholarship offers going out in the next few days because, again, the Ohio State coaches are on the road. And then we are basically, come this weekend, 2 weeks away from official visits starting. Going to be a fun June, a crazy June, but you'll have official visits the weekend for Ohio State of May 30th, June 6th, June 13th, and June 20th. And while those are going on, you'll have 5 one-day camps and 2 team camps at Ohio State. So Mark and I will be very, very busy coming the month of June.
We need 2 deans and 2 poobahs for all that. And I'll say this. My guy, James, not a Dan fan. I can't believe it. Not my fault today, buddy. Came from on high. Technical issues. I'll say this. I think they're going to end up with a spectacular recruiting class, like spectacular. I'm getting some vibes on it, just like you see some things lining up. A couple things break right for the Buckeyes, and this is going to be another special class. Shouldn't be surprised. National champs still basking. Have a good one.
And by the way, the couple of the new additions to the staff, Tyler Bowen and Matt Patricia as a coordinator, kudos to them. They have worked on recruiting since the day they got the job. And sometimes coordinators don't recruit very much. Matt Patricia is not, based on what he has done so far, going to follow that pattern of sometimes recruiters don't work that hard. He has been out on the road and working hard. I
mean, it's going to be a star-studded affair. So we're very lucky. And we got the dean to guide us through. You could not do any better than that. We appreciate everybody stopping by. Have a good one. Nutters of Buck.